I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know how to do this. And so this morning I was in the hospital, actually just an hour before this event, I was in the hospital in the waiting room, jeans, Converse, whatever I was wearing on my book cover. I walked in to Dave Busters and I'm like, I hope you have an outlet and a mirror because I need to get ready. So I literally got ready in 20 minutes in the bathroom because I didn't have any place to go because I had to valet park my car at the hospital because there was no parking. So I was hauling all my stuff in here, and that to me is that, hey, what do you do when you are faced with that? I have to do it. I don't have a choice. I've got to host an event, be there, be on all the time, and I have to look okay? I mean, I walked in and Nat's like, go get ready, you look like death. I'm like, thanks, Nat, thanks. And then I came out and he's like, shit. It's what you do. It's who you bring in. It's the tribe you bring in, the people that keep bringing you back up when you're like, keep going with it, you're going to be fine, figure it out. And I'm honestly sitting here saying, I can't do this without people. I can't do this without people. I've got sponsors, I've got my sister who flew in, who spent a ton of money just to get here so she could be here, to be my wingman as we're caring for my dad. So, just so you know, today has been a hell of a day. Catherine, I think all of us can relate. I think it's just funny because everyone's like, you're so sparkly. I'm like, 5 minutes in the Dave Busters bathroom will do that. Literally, it's like curling my hair there. So just know, like, it's hard. Life is hard. There's no perfect. There's no easy. And that's honestly what this panel is about. It's about getting back up. It's not about giving up. It's about, how are we going to keep propelling each other forward and building community? And that's honestly what I'm trying to accomplish here. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to my panel. Thank you for keeping everyone out. All right, so let's get this going because we've got 30 minutes until this room clears out. And you guys can take to-go boxes. I'm just kidding. You can if you like. All right, so first things first, I want to introduce you to Thomas Barr. How many of you know Thomas Barr? Yay, Thomas! Thomas is the Executive Director of Local First Arizona. I literally just met Thomas maybe about a month ago. Jenny with Cahoots, I put a post up on LinkedIn and said, who inspires you in this community? And she was like, Thomas Barr, Thomas Barr, Thomas Barr. And I was like, Thomas Barr it is. I will find Thomas Barr. One thing I'm really good at, finding these people, nailing them down and saying, I need a conversation with you. Right? Was I persistent? I was like, we need to get a coffee now. So we met for coffee and the rest is history. And I went to AZ's Business Summit last week, had a great time, reconnected with so many people, and now have Thomas on the panel. So I'm going to ask you a question, Thomas, if you'll share that. But you're known for creating community here through Local First Arizona. Was there a time in your life where you felt like you didn't belong or where it didn't come as naturally to build a community? Do you have a story about that? Or if you totally want to go, Tisha, I don't have a story for that, I have a totally different thing I want to share, you can do that too.
Sure, how about every day?
Every day.
I think I'd start, and I don't want to take too much time, but I'll start with my story is really not my story, it's my family's story. So, a lot of people don't know this by looking at me, but I'm half Mexican. And my grandma Carmen Benitez was born here in Mesa, Arizona. When she was 9 years old, living here, going to school, growing up, actually her first language being Spanish, she spoke that language in class, and her teacher came up to her and duct taped her mouth shut for doing that in Arizona Public School. And rest in peace, she died this past year. I hold that with me because the work that I do every day is to raise awareness and a voice for businesses that are usually left out of the conversation as part of what drives an economy. And they tend to be the voiceless voice of what is the backbone of our country. And my whole life has been revolving around being an advocate for those that are shut out of conversations. And so I tell that story to start off with because my whole life is rooted in standing up for those that have not been stood up for and have not been put in the light of the conversation or brought to the center of what we should be focusing on. And as a very young person in the role that I'm in, I have from time to time found a struggle in centering purpose with that of running an organization and running a business. As entrepreneurs, as business owners, I know every single person in this room is hustling every day to make ends meet, to meet the bottom line, but also center community and people in your businesses and the things that you're doing, and it's very, very hard. And in the first, I would say, 2 quarters of becoming an executive director, I was so focused on the numbers that I forgot about the purpose. And there was somebody that came to me and was introduced to me and said, I'm so interested in being a partner of Local First Arizona. And we started a conversation, and it was very quickly that they signed on, and they wrote a check, and they said, we want to work on these things with you. And it almost became more of a task to me than it was a relationship. And I almost lost the entire spectrum of what I should have been doing, which was nurturing that relationship, rather than thinking about, I just got a check and I can pay the bills this month. And what it turned into was a situation where I felt that I had completely disregarded and lost my way as centering people and purpose in the nature of what I was doing. And so I tell that story, I bring that to the light of the conversation today because it is very, very, very easy, I feel, as everybody in this room is working incredibly hard as entrepreneurs, as people, in working so hard every day to get lost in that light of paying the bills, meeting the bottom line, all those things. But if we do not center people, if we do not center community, if we do not center purpose as part of our daily struggle, then we will not be successful as a community. We will not be successful together. And so it took me a very long time to actually realize that single relationship with that one person, I've worked hard for over the last 2 years to bring back. And that one person actually has helped me restore how I center myself and how I position myself with how I build relationships with everyone. So sometimes it does take a big failure and a big struggle to realize that. But that's a little bit about me. So,
I often get mistaken for Hispanic, but I'm not. I'm Polynesian, and I don't know.
I often get mistaken for that.
I'm mistaken.
And I'm not.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. All right,
Never
Catherine.
mistaken.
All right. Catherine, oh my goodness, we have gone through pivots after pivots. How many of you watched Catherine and Anaya on the news every night? Love Catherine and Anaya. This woman does not age whatsoever. My goodness, you look the same as when I saw you when I was wanting to be Connie Chung. Was that bad? Was that No, some of you know that's my major, and I shared that with you. Broadcast journalism is my major from ASU. Loved it, and it was like, I'm gonna go the entrepreneur route, and here we are. So I'm so excited because I get to interview Catherine and Anaya. Like, she's interviewed me on AZTV. I used to do a whole slew of events, the spa retreat, if you remember. And she interviewed me, and I'm like, I get to interview you. That's pretty cool. And little note, she calls me, what's your word? One take Tisha.
One take Tisha, yeah. Because he did her little video, and I gave her a lot of titles to remember.
Oh, yes. I have them memorized.
Do you really?
Host and producer, My Home Group TV, the Women's Eye podcast, and you were the founder,
Yes.
Sisterhood of Superwomen. How was that for memory? All right, and longtime anchor. So you shared some words of wisdom in that video promo that we did to trust the process. And I know that's really hard for people when you're in it. You're like, I have to remain patient. I have to, I just have to go with this, even though it feels uncomfortable. But can you expand on a time where you had to trust the timing of your life, even though you were unsure of the outcome and what it would be?
Yes.
And it's not the one I shared on the video, by the way.
Yeah, share something else.
So I'm going to try to explain this without crying, because I almost always do. So I'm just letting you know that ahead of time because I'm not an attractive crier. But they are real tears, not crocodile tears. So it was 2002. And I am anchoring in Los Angeles. I am 4 years into a 6-year contract. I'm 5 months pregnant, and I'm the breadwinner of my family, and I am told that my contract is not going to be renewed. Now, our jobs are not like bank jobs where you can just go down the street to another bank and get another job. So I was in such turmoil that it forced me into a major depression. It wasn't just the job, it was, I was in a marriage that was not full of love. I was having a baby that I didn't know if I was going to be able to support. I did not know if my career was done. I just didn't know. And I fell into such a deep depression that I could not get out of my bed for 30 days straight. I cried like wailing crying. And I had never experienced rock bottom like that before. And it was difficult for me because I had my young daughter at the time. I forced myself to get out of bed to take her to school and pick her up, but that was it. I was useless. And I remember I went to my OBGYN and I said, can you put a pregnant woman on antidepressants because I am in a very black hole right now. And she did. It was a very low dose. But during that time, I remember I just felt like I didn't know if I was ever going to be back to where I was, what I was going to do. There were so many unanswered questions. And I remember my mom, after about 2 weeks of listening to me just wail on the phone, she decided to take a leave of absence from her job and come and stay with me. And in that process, she made me do an exercise that I still encourage people to do anytime you're feeling self-doubt or at a low point. She said, I want you to put down on a piece of paper 10 things that you have done successfully in your life. So I hemmed and I hawed, and she said, I'm your mother, do what I say. I don't care how old you are. So I sat down and I wrote down 10 things that I've accomplished in my life. And this is where I get emotional, sorry. She said, look at that list and tell me if that didn't belong to anybody else, or I should say, if it did belong to anybody else, wouldn't you think this person was pretty phenomenal and pretty amazing? And I looked at the list and I thought, I have accomplished quite a bit. She said, you have to trust the process. Things are going to work out the way they're supposed to work out, when they're supposed to work out. And the more you push it, the less likely it's going to happen when you want it to. You have to trust the process. You have to have faith in yourself, in your talent, in your ability. It got you to where you are today, and it's going to get you to where you're supposed to be going. So I came out of that black hole. I got off the antidepressants, and I started to feel stronger and more secure with who I am and what I have to offer to this world, and that I would land on my feet. And I gave birth to my son. Still, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I gave birth to my son, and the minute he came out, he was just like the perfect person for me at that time. And I still to this day say, you saved me before you took a breath. So I was able to just sort of let that whole thought go about what's going to happen. And it was not even the first week that I was home that my agent called and said, Channel 5 in Phoenix, which for those of you who don't know, I was here for 6 years before I went to LA. And the only reason I left was because my contract was up and you have a 6-month non-compete at the time. So I couldn't work at any other station, and in order for me to work, I had to go somewhere else. Well, when LA calls, you go. So I left, but I really loved being here, and I intended to finish out my career here. So when they called and said, Channel 5 is interested in you for the main anchor job, I thought, when I left Phoenix, they were like a 10-minute newscast. I don't know if I want to do that. Wait, I'm at a job. Who am I to be doing that? But they flew me out. It was the best interview. I ended up taking the job Came out here with my son, who was a month old, because my daughter and my husband at the time stayed back so she could finish school. Bottom line is, it was the best decision I ever made to come back here. I was able to find quality of life. I was able to be a better part of this community. I was able to be a better mother. And everything just fell into place. It was exactly the way it should have been, the way I envisioned that it would be, but it wasn't on the timetable that I expected it to be. But I trusted the process. I really had faith in my faith that things would work out because, as my mom said, talent got you here. Talent is going to get you where you need to go. It doesn't just stop here because it's not happening in the time you want it to happen. So trusting the process, which is what I said in the video, goes back to that very pivotal moment in my life where I just had to give it up to the higher power, knowing that he would take care of me the way I was supposed to be taken care of. So, sorry. Here it is all these years later.
Thank you, Catherine, for being vulnerable. The reason why I do this panel too is some of you, like I said, we know Catherine, we're like, oh, she's a godhead, innocent red. Well, I just say, like, so many of us look at Thomas, we look at Brian Hill, Phoenix Fashion Week, and you're like, how do I talk to Brian? Oh my gosh, how do I talk to him? And really, I'm breaking it down that these are people. They're people with real stories. So we're not up here saying, just tell me all your success stories now. Like, I really want you to know people for people, and that's what this is about. All right, Brian, thank you. Thank you for being transparent and vulnerable and sharing. I know I needed that. I mean, you guys saw me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like ugly crying over here. Thank you for saying that. All right, Brian, I've heard you say, create what doesn't exist. You said this on our podcast. You said this numerous times, even in our video. What was it like for you to create something that doesn't exist? And what prompted you to take that leap of faith, and what ensued after? Because I know we always have to have our start.
How's it going, everybody? All right, cool. So I'm Brian. I'm the director of Phoenix Fashion Week. But I started many years ago at Arizona State University. I made a T-shirt. That's when I first started this whole create what doesn't exist. I made a polo shirt, a T-shirt with the Ralph Lauren polo, and then the Ralph Lauren polo was the left chest. And I put Arizona State Polo Club around the Ralph Lauren polo, which you shouldn't do because I did paint the logo. But on the